Hi, I'm Flo from Progressive. Being a baseball fanatic like me can be stressful. It's not all sports points and touchdowns. So Progressive is going to help you take your mind off your team for a moment. Instead of thinking about how they missed that goal point score, think about the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, letting you choose coverage options based on your budget, unlike your team that missed the end zone net area. Well, anyway, hope this distraction about Progressive's Name Your Price tool was helpful. It sure kept me from thinking about all those penalty balls. Yay, sports!
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
Welcome to the Boneyard with Steve Robertson. As always, I am your good friend and host, Steve Robertson, here on the Monday edition of the Yard, a lot later than I wanted to be. It's been a busy day here. A lot going on. I'm trying to get everything done before I go on vacation. You know how that is, right? It's almost like a full-time job just to get ready to go on vacation. Got to make sure everything's taken care of, dogs taken care of, property's taken care of. Yeah, it's just a lot to it. Then there's all this other stuff that goes on, all this bureaucracy at times when you get ready to make a big trip. You know, got to take all these tests and things like that. So a lot going on. But the reality of it is we've got a show to do. My plan is to do a show tomorrow. Now, if things fall apart and I don't get to go on vacation this week, then we'll be a regular schedule. How about that? But if we do go on vacation, you get a show today, you get a show tomorrow. You won't get one Friday or Monday if I go on vacation. So just be prepared. So you'll be short a couple of shows. You'll learn to miss me. So we'll get back on the saddle Wednesday. But if we don't take vacation, then all this was for nothing. So here we go. Got a lot to talk about. It was Top Dawg Camp Friday night. We had a prospect camp on Saturday. Going to kind of break down some things that I saw. Mississippi State's picked up a commitment today. We'll talk about that. And, of course, College World Series Final 8 getting set. Interesting. We're not in it. Still have some level of interest in it, but maybe not like we ordinarily would. And, so there's a lot of things going on. So I'm going to do my best to update you on all of this on today's show. And again, later than I wanted to be, so I apologize. So if you're listening to this on Tuesday, some of this may be dated. We might have picked up another commitment, and the final 2 spots in the College World Series may be filled. So there we go. Let's thank our friends at Bulldog Burger Company. I had Bulldog Burger Company for dinner last night. Had the Sloppy Joe sliders with those fabulous fries. Very, 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 very filling meal. Not just for lunch or for dinner. If you don't feel like a hamburger, I suggest go with the Sloppy Joe sliders. Really, really good. Really, really good. The rest of the family, let me think here. We had some spring rolls, for sure. You have to have those. Had the Bulldog burger with tater tots. And I think we also had the Freshman 15. I think that's right. You can't go wrong with Bulldog Burger Company. It's always a great time. It is a great value. A lot of people out there are reducing their portions and even increasing the price. Now, that's just not the case at Bulldog Burger Company. Still giving you a quality experience at a reasonable price. When you begin to think about the fact that you can go in there and get more than enough, there's very few places in life that afford you that. Most places you leave, could have had a little bit more. No, not Bulldog Burger Company. Very generous portions. Always, always, always worth the value. 3 great locations to serve you. University Drive here in Star Vegas, Gloucester Street in Tupelo, and then Lake Harbor Drive in the Ridge and Flowwood area. Be sure and go check it out. You'll be glad you did. And have those spring rolls. They will make you and everybody around you better looking. Bulldog Burger Company, the place where people go to meet. MEAT. All right, let's talk a little Top Dawg Camp. It was a bigger camp than they were kind of letting on for it to be, because you have a lot of walk-ups, right? A lot of people don't understand this. You can't have like an invitation-only camp. NCAA rules not allow that. But you do have some camps where you want your priority targets there, but it's still open to the general public. And so you can go to hellstate.com, click on football camps, and you can register for these camps and have a chance to compete against the best. And so they don't turn anybody away. It's not like, we're going to have this private event, which basically amounts to a tryout. It doesn't work that way. So maybe 75 to 80 were expected. It was probably closer to 150. Things moved really, really quickly. It was very well organized. The guys all had a chance to get some reps in, learn some things. But let's start with Chris Parson. Current Florida State commitment. Took a unofficial visit with his dad and his brother. His mom's family is here in Starkville. He comes back a lot. This was the first chance he had to tour the Mississippi State campus and facilities. Chris is not going to do a lot of media before Elite 11. He supposedly is going to make an announcement at the finals out in L.A. for the Elite 11. Maybe he reaffirms with Florida State. Not expecting that, but it's a possibility. He grew up a Florida State fan. Was really excited when he got the offer. That's one of the reasons that he committed early and went to work, kind of recruiting for Florida State, helped putting a class together around him. And then there was this discussion about a second quarterback in the class that apparently is not what they had told him initially when he committed. And so he's rethinking things. Now he takes it to visit Mississippi State, spends over an hour with Mike Leach, then goes to see his grandparents. I don't believe this is like a visit of convenience, if that makes sense. I don't think it's just, hey, let me go make an appearance. No, he is rethinking things. Now, that announcement at the Elite 11 finals could be that, hey, I'm decommitting from Florida State and reopening my recruitment. It could be, hey, I'm going to flip to Mississippi State. At this point, I can't say with a lot of confidence that I'm expecting that. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that State's not a factor in this thing. We are. But there's a lot that could happen between now and then. One of the things that I was told today is that he is going to take a couple more visits between now and then. So it's not like, hey, he visits Mississippi State and then is shutting things down while he deliberates and considers his next move. So we've gotten him on campus. We put the best foot forward. We rolled out the big maroon carpet for him. And then now we'll see. And he is clearly the guy right now. Brock Glenn was the guy for a while. I suspect Brock Glenn is going to announce for Auburn. He is on the Auburn campus right now, from what I understand. Also told, too, that because Mississippi State and he have not really been quite as chummy here as of late, that Brock is going to drop a new top four that will not include Mississippi State. And that's not to be a surprise to anybody. Because once Auburn got involved, I think in many respects that kind of changed things. Now, the one school I'm told that might throw a wrench in the plans for Auburn is Florida. That Brock Glenn has, an affection for the University of Florida. But we can rest assured at this point it is not going to be Mississippi State. Now, a month ago, I felt differently. Now his recruitment has blown up. Ohio State recently offered. And so he won't be coming here. And that's okay. I do know that there are a couple other quarterback names out there that we won't kind of get into right now, but because I believe State is invested in the Chris Parson situation. There will be some quarterbacks on campus this weekend to throw for the staff. There were about 30 this weekend. There were a ton. But Mike Leach and the staff, very, very selective with the offers for quarterbacks. Dan Mullen sometimes would offer quarterbacks basically as an invitation to camp. Because Mullen wasn't going to take any quarterback he hadn't seen throw. I think the only one he did was Cord Sandberg, and of course Cord Sandberg ended up playing pro baseball and then bouncing around the football ranks, once he got done playing baseball. But Dan Mullen was the guy that wanted you to come to camp. He wanted to see you throw, and then that even included Dak Prescott. And there were a lot of people involved with the Dak Prescott recruitment that were ready for State to go ahead and take him. So that's kind of where we are. Much different scenario now this time. Chris Parson went to camp, didn't have to throw, didn't have to do anything. He's already proven enough. I think Dan wanted to see guys compete and see how they took coaching and things like that. So his evaluation was really based more on, not just the film review, but also the camp evaluation. I think with Mike Leach, it's much different. I think once you have a chance to see guys, like Brock Glenn camped last year, and the next thing you know, he is very much in the conversation for Mississippi State this year. And hey, credit Mike Leach and Drew Hollingshead for offering that kid early, before his recruitment blew up. It's obviously that Mississippi State's on the right guys. But I feel okay about Chris Parson. I don't feel great. I feel okay. I feel maybe on the border of pretty good, but not great. I'm not expecting him at this point. I think we got to see what happens these next 2 weeks. It'd been one thing like if he had decided, hey, let me do an interview and kind of clear the air here. And this is where we are. And they went to Florida State last weekend, to have the big sit-down meeting. And I don't think that went the way either party wanted it to go, talking with our Florida State guys over there, unhappy about a 2-quarterback class after he's been committed now for the better part of a year. Feels like that, he's kind of had the rug pulled out from under him. And I don't think that's a situation where Chris Parson, is a prima donna or anything like that, or scared of competition. Or that's what always comes to mind on message boards. Well, he's scared to compete. No, there's a trust issue here. When your coaches say, hey, this is how it's going to be, and then all of a sudden things change, it's just like when Chris Garrett committed to Mississippi State. We've referenced this before. Hey, Chris, you're going to be our guy. We're done. And then we ultimately go out and offer Tyler Russell. I'm like, well, wait a minute. And almost immediately, I'm hearing from the family, well, if this is the case, then we're going to be looking elsewhere. And they did. And then Chris signed with LSU. Didn't work out down there. But that happens a lot. When you make a commitment to a prospect, especially a quarterback, saying, hey, you're our guy, you got to stand behind that. You do. And if circumstances change, you got to make sure that guy understands that. I remember when, Elijah Staley was a big part of things. He and Nick Fitzgerald were part of a 2-quarterback class. And Les Kenning told me after the first spring that Elijah Staley was probably not going to play here. And it wasn't necessarily a shot at Elijah. It was the fact that Nick Fitzgerald had really flourished. Nick was here for bowl practices and obviously couldn't participate in the bowl. But Nick was really more of a Dan Mullen quarterback. Nick could handle the running component of this. And so Elijah was like, hey, this guy's coming in to be my backup. I'm going to be the dude. And so both of those guys were completely okay with the arrangement. And Nick Fitzgerald did not have an offer from UT Chattanooga despite the memes and despite Dan Mullen misspeaking in the post-Egg Bowl press conference. The other offer was Middle Tennessee State. And while he was ready to commit to Mississippi State, he had committed to go to that camp in Middle Tennessee, and he went up there, and then he ultimately committed to Mississippi State. But those are two guys that kind of understood from the get-go it was going to be a two-quarterback class. And when you're going to take two, the chances of you getting two blue chips are pretty much nil. I guess if Alabama wanted to, there are guys that would think, hey, well, I'll just go over there and do it, But at Mississippi State, you're going to take a developmental guy and arguably a guy that's a little more highly recruited. But the reality of it is this Chris Parson situation is, according to the things that he has said and according to things that our sources close to the family have said, is that he feels somewhat betrayed. He was a guy that, really jumped into this situation with Florida State thinking, hey, this is it. This is where I've always wanted to be. And now I'm going to go to work. And now all of a sudden that I've helped those guys build the recruiting class, and I've got guys looking at them that weren't even looking at them in the first place. Now all of a sudden they're going to bring in another guy at my position. And you expect to compete every year because everybody's going to sign a quarterback each year. But the reality of it is, when you got a guy like Chris Parson, you probably just need to kind of hang with what you have. I don't know Florida State's situation, and so I won't pretend to speak intelligently about what their roster looks like. I do know that Mike Norvell is a good coach. I know that Mike Norvell did a great job at Memphis, recruiting. It's been kind of a bumpy road at times this year in Tallahassee the last couple of years. And he needs a good year, not just on the recruiting trail, but on the football field. So we'll see how things progress there. But, it could be a situation where Florida State's making a coaching change at the end of the year. Who knows? I guess we'll see. A lot of people think that they're kind of a sleeper this year. I don't know that I agree with that. We'll see. But that's your update on Chris Parson. Now, Mississippi State picked up the verbal commitment of LaFleur County safety Dante Kelly earlier today. We have been seeing this kind of trend in this direction here in recent days. He is an unranked prospect by the consensus. There's a lot of people within the composite ranking that have not established him. 247 currently has him as an 84 and a 3-star. I think that's a little low. And maybe I'm wrong, but I think it's a little bit low. And he is a guy that's very raw. But I like him as a defensive back prospect. I think he will be a safety. I think he will be a very punishing safety. Looking through the offer list here, a couple decent offers. Not an offer sheet that's going to turn your head. But one thing that I would say is Dante Kelly's offer sheet, I believe, is legitimate. There are a lot of kids out there claiming 30, 40 offers, and they have like 5. But offers from Alcorn State, Arkansas State, Memphis, Mississippi Valley State, Navy, Southern Miss, and Vanderbilt. So mainly mid-majors, but one other SEC offer. I think Dante Kelly is going to be just the first of a very good group of prospects in the Mississippi Delta. They're going to be Bulldogs. Now, I don't think it's going to help us in the rankings. I think it's going to help us a ton on the field, though. We'll get out here and we'll compete and we'll get some senior film and we'll try to get these guys reevaluated. But the reality of it is these guys are kind of tucked away in an under-recruited area when it comes to recruiting. So they're not going to have big offer sheets. But Dante Kelly is a guy that can play at Mississippi State. Jackie Sherrill made mention a couple years ago, maybe last year. One of the biggest mistakes that he made at Mississippi State is he quit recruiting the Delta. Yeah. Melvin Smith will tell you. Mike Leach talks about you want to recruit players that need football. Well, that's the Mississippi Delta in a nutshell. A lot of those guys raised up, working hard, understand about sacrifice. This is an opportunity for them to pay for college, a chance for them to kind of change their family tree for the betterment, of their lives and those around them. And these guys can play football. They play a different brand of football in the Mississippi Delta. You guys all saw last year with the Greenville Christian thing, right? I mean, you took some of the best players in the Delta and put them on one team, considered by many the best high school team in America. Well, Dante Kelly stayed at LaFleur County and led those guys to the state championship game for the first time in school history. They lose to Scott Central. But a tremendous season last year for Dante Kelly. And he was really good in drills Friday night. And again, he's going to be a bigger safety. He could be a guy that grows into a linebacker. I mean, he's already 6'3", 200 pounds. But he's running, high 4.5s, low 4.6s. And this is a guy that can really play. But also a guy, too, that doesn't have aversion for contact. And when you watch his highlight film, he is very raw. He gets to the spot. Tackling form is not exactly stellar, but the effort is there. Very competitive player. In the end, it boiled down to State and Vanderbilt. Southern Miss, of course, the first offer. That was an exciting opportunity in the beginning, but he's waited this thing out, and then all the discussion now is that he's done. Now, the next commitment, I believe, will be Kelly Jones. Kelly Jones out of Clarksdale. I've talked about him on this show before. I'm a Kelly Jones fan. A lot of people get so bent up with all of this, with the offer sheet. Well, he's got this offer and that offer and everything else, and that may or may not be true. I know that, and I shared this on the JamesPage.com message boards. Coaches lie. 7-on-7 coaches lie. Kids lie. Mentors lie. Trainers lie. Everybody lies. And a lot of times they say, hey, tweet out that you've got this offer, because maybe if you put out you got a Mississippi State offer, then maybe Southern Miss will offer. There's a lot of people that play the social media game. Kelly Jones is a guy that doesn't have a lot of offers, mostly from junior colleges. But if you look at the tape, that guy is an SEC athlete. I don't know what the hang-up is. Maybe he's marginal academically. I don't know. I'm just kind of speculating. Maybe he is. But when you turn the tape on, you see a winner. You see a guy that can really play. Now, I expected him to be a little bit bigger when I saw him. And I say bigger, more filled out. He is a legitimate 6'3", but he's kind of narrowly framed, kind of in the same vein as Emmanuel Forbes and Martin Emerson, though I think he has the capacity to probably add a little more mass than Emmanuel Forbes. But he is the long, lean, athletic corner. He's never really played corner. He's been quarterback and safety throughout high school. And so he gets out there Friday night, playing a position he's unfamiliar with, and just tries to compete. And he kept taking rep after rep after rep after rep. Like if a guy didn't want his turn, Kelly wanted the turn. And sometimes it didn't work out. Sometimes he got beat. And he's out there defending junior college receivers at times and other guys that are For more polished programs. He's chasing receivers in man coverage. Maybe not something he's done very often. Mississippi State offered him at the conclusion of camp. I expect that's just a matter of time. I won't be surprised if it happens today. I understand that one of his high school coaches went to go meet with his mom over the weekend to kind of explain the significance of all this. He's like, hey, here's what's going to happen. Okay, he's going to go to Mississippi State. They're going to pay for college, and this is what happens. You don't have to worry about this. And so, for a lot of these young people and their families, this is the first time they've ever had to have these kinds of conversations. And that's where I think the high school coach can be very beneficial. Kelly has said over and over again, it's a chance to be home, represent his home state, but also, too, you're talking to some of these guys from the Delta. There is a camaraderie there that I don't think a lot of people fully appreciate. We hear about GPS kids, and we hear about kids from the coast, but there's just something a little bit different. There is an edge with those kids from the Delta that I think is unique. Talking to a couple of those guys is like, hey, we have competed against each other our entire lives. Now we have a chance to go play together at Mississippi State. That's a pretty awesome situation there. Not just because of the fact that it's going to help these young men, further and advance their lives and careers, but Mississippi State is going to benefit from getting some very good football players. And it's a different day and time right now, too. There are some guys right now, I'll just share this with you, too. I won't mention any names. There are some players out there that don't have the ability of Dante Kelly, and in some respects don't have the same college options as Dante Kelly, that tell us, well, I'm holding out to see who has the best NIL deal. Now, who put that idea in their head? They see all this stuff on social media, and they're thinking, oh, well, this guy's getting a car, and this guy's getting this. What am I going to get? Well, you're going to get left out. That's what's going to happen. A lot of people say, well, know your value. Well, sometimes those people telling you that don't understand your value is not any different than the guy that's right next to you that is willing to play the same position for a lot less money or for none. Does that make sense? Do you really think, that a guy with, State, Vanderbilt, and Ole Miss, Southern Miss's offers, and maybe a handful of other G5s, you think that guy's going to command a lot of NIL money? I mean, if it boils down to a State and Ole Miss thing, you might see a situation where, there's some gamesmanship between State and Ole Miss. But let's be honest, you're not going to go make a big investment in a guy that there's probably 10 guys just like him in your home state. And so there hadn't been as many commitments. I think part of that, too, is because, hey, these guys weren't showing any urgency. Nobody was calling the commits, and nobody was pushing for the commitment because they wanted to get them in camp. Well, now they have, and they've seen him, so now it's go time. And now Kelly Jones, and this is a guy I've been talking about on Gene's page for a couple months now, and this is a kid here. They just got to see him in camp, and they're going to get an offer. You got to trust the tape. You can't always trust the offer sheet. You can't always trust what other people are telling you. You trust the tape. What do they do when the band is playing? What do they do when the lights are on? I can't count how many times some kid will say, well, I've got offers from Alabama and Tennessee and Georgia, and I take a look at this, and I said, man, if this kid goes to Alabama, that's a win for us. Because we can sign somebody else, and they'll have a guy on the field, or more than likely not on the field, but a guy riding the scholarship rolls is never going to make a contribution. That's just the reality of life. And there are a lot of people out there that think, okay, well, if I lie about offers, maybe I'll get more stars. And there's some people in this industry, that's what they do. They count offers. Look at the tape. If the tape doesn't match the offer sheet, then chances are the offer sheet is disingenuous. You look at Kelly Jones, that guy's got an accurate offer sheet. His tape is much better than his offers. Kendra James, linebacker out of Northside High School. I really like him, and I like him even more after meeting him. You talk about alpha. That's one thing that I think about, too. He doesn't, again, another guy that doesn't have a big offer sheet. But this is a guy that will change your oil for you. Go look at his spring jamboree footage. Go watch it. He plays H-back, plays Mike linebacker, never leaves the field. He's blowing people up every play. One of the better spring tapes that I've seen this year. Kendra James shows up on a Mississippi State campus, his hair spiked up, the gold glasses on. introduces himself to several other recruits that he's met on social media, and all of a sudden they were fast friends. Everybody's running around having a good time, cheering for each other. This class is on the verge of coming together. I think Kendra James can be a big part of that. State needs to take some linebackers in this class. And I submit to you, the linebacker class that State signed last year is outstanding. Now, of course, to hear the Mississippi State coaches go, it's like, we'll see. Well, yeah, that's true. We'll see. You never know how guys are going to handle college coaching. But the reality of it is I think we're gonna have a chance to stack good linebacker classes. You remember what we had last year? Javay Gilmore, right? Khalid Moore, right? Trevion Williams, who looks like $1 million. He's going to play with his hand in the ground, though. You start running through these names, and you start thinking, okay, Avery Sledge, guy was a quarterback, and he was a heck of an athlete, needs to get in the weight room. But I feel great about this linebacker class, and I think we're about to stack a second linebacker class primarily of in-state guys. I think majority of your defense is going to be Mississippi guys this year. And I think that's a good thing. Those guys aren't going to look to transfer unless we recruit over them the next couple of years. But by and large, those guys are going to come in here, and it's going to be some of the greatest days of their life. They're going to have a chance to represent their home state. And I think Kendra James is a guy, too, that will help put this class together. The sooner we get him in the boat, the better. Amarion Blakes worked out at wide receiver. I thought he was good. I didn't think it was great. He was good. I would take him, especially if we're going to take 4 wide receivers. The guy's got great vision, great change of direction, quickness, good top-end foot speed. Really like his game a lot. Wondered if he wouldn't be a corner. I think now keep him at receiver. Zay Alexander, offensive lineman from Tupelo, has lost about 30 pounds, looks like a different player. He was already pretty athletic, even at 360 or whatever he was. He was big. And it was all kind of bad weight. It wasn't like in his shoulders and chest. It was more around his waistline. Well, he's trimmed that up. He looks a lot more agile. He's got to get stronger. He does. But this is a guy, too, that's going to boil down to a State Ole Miss thing. And in the end, I expect it to be Mississippi State. Got an offensive lineman, Malik Alice, from over there in Alabama. I think this is one he's probably on the clock. I think State's going to really ratchet things up with him. I won't be surprised if he's in the boat before the season begins. Offered Oak Grove defensive back Jaylen Abram. He spells it Aborn, but it's pronounced Abram. Maybe that's an M. Like him as a defensive back, and State's going to be pretty heavy on the defensive side of football in this class, especially linebacker, and you got to get some safeties. I think Jaylen probably is a safety. And I think maybe you take him and Kelly and you kind of Kelly Jones and you figure out, hey, which guy grows into a safety? They may both grow into safeties. But it's interesting. Very interesting to say the least. Get Perkins. Ole Miss commitment. His name is Santarine Perkins. They call him Get. He showed up with his family. Just about everybody decked out in Mississippi State gear. I tweeted out maroon and white, and then the Ole Miss smart alecks were like, well, Raleigh High School is maroon and white. Yeah, but Raleigh doesn't wear Mississippi State gear, though. So I took a picture and tweeted that out, too, just so they would be quiet. But I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think State gets him, but State's made this awfully interesting. I think State probably gets an official visit, but, I think Ole Miss locals will do what it takes to get him. I think, another thing, too, I don't mean that in an unscrupulous way either. I mean, he's already got an NIL deal right now. But I say that, Dante Moncrief was a fantastic college player and had some good years in the NFL. He is a hero to those kids at Raleigh High School. And so it makes perfect sense to me that Get Perkins would have committed to Ole Miss. I mean, it makes sense to me, right? That said, talking to the family, they're probably going to take a visit to Alabama and a visit to Florida. They're not done. He's committed really kind of in word more so than deed. Going to go through the process and going to see how things go. But the guy's a really good player. I think he's probably a linebacker on the next level. I don't know that he can play running back. I know some people suggested he can. but he is a heck of an athlete. No matter if he ends up at Ole Miss or not, the guy can really play. And talking to the family, you just kind of get a sense. These are good Mississippi folks, people that have good values, and they're enjoying the process and kind of getting out and traveling together as a group and getting to see the sights and make some memories together. And I support that 100%. And again, I think it's going to be tough to pull him from Ole Miss for us. Maybe Alabama or Florida can, but this guy's an outstanding football player. Zakari Tillman played as a safety last year, looks like a linebacker this year. I think he has probably developed into a linebacker. Could be a Mike linebacker. He's got to get a little bit. He's getting big and he's getting a little stronger. I like his game. I like his attitude. I think this is a guy too that his best football is ahead of him. Had a chance to meet his mom, and she is, like all mothers, just absolutely beaming with pride, knowing that he's going to have a chance to fulfill his dream. Great family, for sure. Bray Hubbard from OS, Ocean Springs. That's the high school that Austin Williams has made famous. No, OS has turned out some good prospects over the years. Maybe more so at the lower levels, but yeah, it's a good program. When Coach Todd Mangum was down there, you had DeAndre Brown. You had Austin Williams come through there. I mean, you've had some guys that have signed lower D1 from out of there, but I think Bray Hubbard is probably the first one since Austin Williams you look at and say, this guy's got a little something, right? Alabama offers him as a safety. Mississippi State offers him a day later as a wide receiver. He's committed to Southern Miss in baseball. So he's got a lot to think about. We spoke about that a little bit, and you can just tell. He's like, yeah, I've got a lot to figure out. And but how wonderful a decision that has to be. It's like when you commit to Southern Miss baseball, you're thinking, hey, this is great. And now all of a sudden Alabama's offered you, Mississippi State has offered you. I don't know what his level of attraction is to Mississippi State. But I know that this is a SEC athlete, for sure. And you're starting to see this class. We talked about it first blush. It looked to be a good class. Wasn't a great class. Maybe it's going to turn out to be a pretty good or perhaps a really good class. When you start looking at some of these guys and you start looking at rankings, you're looking at the wrong thing. Right? You're looking at the wrong thing. Look at the film. Because I know a lot of guys that got some big rankings that don't have film to match because, we've got this real colorful offer sheet. But all of a sudden, Bray Hubbard gets an offer from Alabama, and you have a DB from Meridian commit to Florida State. Then you see a DB from Itabena commit to Mississippi State. We don't have a ton of headliners in this class, but we got some guys that can play. And so, again, it's kind of a developmental year. And I think, again, I think State is going to be able to fill probably all of their defensive needs within the state of Mississippi. Probably going to supplement a little bit with wide receivers. Outside of the state, you got Seth Davis. Of course, Seth came in for the camp. He's explosive. Not the biggest guy, but he's explosive. Fun guy, well-spoken, kind of guy you take to media day. He's going to have some credibility in the room, but also, too, is going to represent you well. So State currently has 4 commitments. 5 now that we add Dante Kelly into it. Everybody came. Ty Jones came, and as soon as he walked through the door, I turned to Paul Jones and I said, I feel a whole lot better about that commitment right now. I already liked him, and then to see him in person, without pads, just him walking casually, you think this is exactly what you want. Now, where does he play? Does he end up at linebacker? Does he grow into defensive end? I don't know. He's 6'1", 205, and I think he's probably a little bit taller than that now. But this is a guy that's been committed for a while. And again, you see him in person, you see guys come to camp and you see him compete, and you're thinking, you know what, I see what everybody else saw in him now. It's one thing to see it on film, but then when you see him in person, it kind of validates what you hope. Malik Ellis doesn't look like an offensive lineman. And I say that from a girth standpoint. Now, he works with the lineman, and he is a freak of an athlete. But this is a guy, too, who's going to have to put on some weight when he gets here, much like Charles Cross did. I think Charles is probably a little thicker than Malik at this point in his development. But I think he can follow that same path. This guy is an incredible athlete. He's just got to add the mass and learn to play strong at a heavier playing weight. Joseph Head, incredible first step. That guy's going to be, Joseph Head is going to be trouble for SEC quarterbacks. I mean, just watching him in drills and you see how he kind of frees himself. And, there are a lot of guys that have that length. They're a little bit stiff and they don't really move around athletically. But you see Joseph Head and you're thinking, man, this guy's still in high school. 6'4", 205. He's probably got to put on 20, 25 pounds. But he looks like what you would expect a rush end to look like. I'm really happy with everybody we have right now. The Seth Davis, Seth's a little guy. It's true. I'm concerned about what's he going to do on the blitz pickups. But as far as the rest of the game, swinging the ball out to him in the flats, letting him carry it on the outside, the kid's going to be able to play. In a traditional offense, he'd be an outstanding third down back. But out of the backfield. You want him to go out there and get out in the flats or whatever and make plays for you. The guy's a playmaker. So he's an interesting piece. He's kind of the complementary back to to Hargrove. You don't want to have everybody looking the same with the same skill sets. But Seth Davis is a productive guy at Katy, Texas, 6A football in one of the most football crazy states in the Union. So I'm happy with what we've got in the class, and again, I think it's just really beginning to build. I think people are really kind of getting an idea. Now we've got guys in campus. We've had guys that come to camp. We've had a chance to see them in person, get our own measurements, get our own times and things of that nature. I think now we can kind of say, okay, listen, it's time to go. So I think business is going to pick up here in the next couple weeks. I think you can go ahead and kind of rest assured with that. And that's just part of the event. We had some decent guys with, Will Demp's nephew was there, Shaborn Demps. A little bit undersized, but a lot like his uncle. Very fleet of foot, very good in and out of his breaks. We had some dudes here, especially on Friday. It's a handful on Saturday. A lot of guys here, but over the weekend. So, again, I think business is about to pick up. Speaking of business, let's talk about our friend Blair Chandler at closewithblair.com. Blair's a guy that makes things happen. Guy's been a mortgage professional now 21 years, back-to-back years, top 1% close ratio in the country. Let me give you his phone number. It's 601-500-2344. Again, it's 601-500-2344. And Blair is a guy that can probably get your loan closed when other people can't. Guy's seen it all, done it all. Got a good relationship with underwriting, knows what they're looking for, so he can kind of structure your loan in a way that we can get you taken care of. Get your loan approved and get you a little more rest at night. Many people are kind of sweating it out, paycheck to paycheck. It's no way to live. And at some point, we've all lived that way, right? Maybe get your equity working for you, consolidate some debt down to one low monthly payment. Visit him at closewithblair.com. That's C-L-O-S-E with Blair, B-L-A-I-R. And if you mention to him you heard about him on the Boneyard, he's going to pay for your appraisal, no matter your college affiliation. If you just listen to the Boneyard and say, hey, Blair, I heard about you on Steve's show, the Boneyard, he's going to pay for your appraisal. It's about a $500 value. How about that? A lot of fees associated with getting these loans approved. Blair's going to help you with some of that. Again, that's closewithblair.com. All right, I've been trying to do top 10 album lists on Mondays. It didn't always work out that way. We did Sex Pistols last week. I had a lot of response to that, too. A lot of people say, Steve, I think the list was pretty close to perfect, with maybe one exception. And that's okay. Granted, it's not a huge catalog to pull from, but I'm glad you guys appreciated the list. But today we're going to do a band that's got 12 studio albums and a couple live albums, but and they've had 3 different singers. Had gold albums at least with all 3 of them. How about that? How many bands can claim that? We're talking Van Halen. Going to rank the top 10 Van Halen albums. Now, there are 12 studio albums in the Van Halen catalog. We are not going to include Van Halen 3, which had Gary Sharon from Extreme as the lead singer. I'm a Gary fan. I love Extreme. It just didn't work for me. Now, I think Eddie and those guys, the music was great. It just didn't work for me. Maybe it did for you, and that's okay. It wasn't my thing. And again, maybe you were. Maybe it was for you. Didn't make my list. And I also didn't include Different Kind of Truth. That was the last album recorded in 2012. The last Van Halen album. There may be some things out there, that some unfinished stuff, maybe, that finally shows the light of day. I know there was some songs during the Sammy Hagar era that have not been released. Ed didn't want them released. I understand the best ballad in the history of Van Halen was one of them that Sammy wrote, and they have not released that. So maybe at some point we'll get some new Van Halen music. But here are 10 albums I think you can enjoy. Number 10, the album is Balance, and I don't know that this one maybe got the acclaim that it should have among fans, and it actually went 3 times platinum. How about that? Did you know that? 3 times platinum. I think the shining moment is Can't Stop Loving You. That's going to be your number 10 song today. Can't Stop Loving You. It's been on the show before. Don't Tell Me What Love Can Do is a great one too. But Can't Stop Loving You, at some point we've all felt that. It's an outstanding song, and I know that you'll appreciate that one. I listened to that one a lot. I like Sammy's vocals a lot on that one. Number 9, the second album with Sammy Hagar as a singer, OU 812. And there was a punk band out there that kind of had a counter that said I ate one before you, kind of a shot at the new Van Halen. A lot of good ones on here. I know some people like Cabo Wabo. Black and Blue was a big hit for him. Finish What You Started is another one too, where Ed kind of shows a different part of his repertoire as a guitarist. But I went with When It's Love, which I think is, an incredible vocal. And I do like the 2 guitars with Sammy Hagar in the band. So that's your number 9 song, When It's Love, from the OU 812 album. All right, for Unlawful Carnal Knowledge. It's a nice little acronym for you there. So this is another one that I think is probably somewhat underappreciated. A lot of good ones on here. Right Now, of course, was a huge hit for them, and it gets played basically in all the sports arenas around the world. Top of the World was great. I went, and Run Around was another one that people don't really highlight. Run Around is great. But I went with Pound Cake, and that's the one with the drill. I think it's Eddie at his best. I think another thing, too, I think once they kind of found their groove with Sammy, I think Ed was kind of willing to experiment again. I think he had the freedom to do that. So Pound Cake is your number 8 song, off for Unlawful Carnal Knowledge. Number 7, and this is the only David Lee Roth album that's not in the top 6, and it's Diver Down. And I love the album, but it is basically a covers album. You say, Steve, no, yes, it is. Where Have All the Good Times Gone? That's a Ray Davies track. The Kinks. Pretty Woman, of course, is a Roy Orbison track, and I love Van Halen's version of it. Dancing in the Street, of course, is a Marvin Gaye song. Big Bag Bill with Sweet William Now. That's another cover that was recorded back in the 1920s. And, of course, Happy Trails from Del Evans and Roy Rogers. So you look at that album, you're like, my goodness, there's all of these covers. And there's only, I guess 3 true original songs on here. Hang 'Em High, which is great. Then there's the instrumental for Cathedral and Secrets, which is good. And I love the intro on Intruder that goes into Pretty Woman. But we're going to go with little guitars. I love Eddie's work here. It's very different than Eruption. The intro itself is kind of an elongated thing. And then when you get into the body of the song, Ed's still kind of going all over the place. I love it. The Full Bug is another one. It was a B-side on Where Have All the Good Times Gone, I think. But again, it's mainly a covers album. And so as a result, I had to dock it a couple spots. So Little Guitars off Diver Down is number 7 on the list. You say, Steve, are you kidding me? You put a Sammy Hagar album above a David Lee Roth album? I absolutely did. Because I think 5150 is outstanding. And I'm not alone. 5150 went 6 times platinum. And if you're keeping up there, that's more than most of the David Lee Roth albums. Did you know that? That's right. 4 of the David Lee Roth albums did not surpass the same sales as 5150. Now, you may recall, and I remember where I was the first time I heard Why Can't This Be Love, and which is amazing. I don't think there's a bad track on this album. Summer Nights is one that I think is underappreciated too in the catalog. I think Sammy's vocals on it's really good. Best of Both Worlds was great live. Love Walks In was big. But I'm going to go with Dreams. And I know this, again, Eddie was an amazing keyboardist as well as a guitarist. And I think, hey, Bulldog business owners, if you're like me, I know exactly what my business needs. Sometimes it's difficult to find the right candidate. Today, there's so many people out there in the job market making it so competitive. It's almost like an interviewee's market. Maybe it's time to flip the script and bring in the hiring power of your friends at Indeed. Instead of spending hours upon hours on multiple job sites or combing through resumes for candidates that might not even have the right skills for you, Indeed's powerful hiring partnership can help you do it all. With Instant Match, over 80% of employers get quality candidates whose resume on Indeed matches their job description. The moment they sponsor a job, according to Indeed.com, you're going to get results. That's one of the best things about it. And here's the deal. Being a Boneyard listener, we're going to give you a little incentive to give our friends at Indeed a try. Start hiring now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/Boneyard. That offer is only good for a limited time. You can claim your $75 credit now at Indeed.com/Boneyard. Indeed.com/Boneyard. Some terms and conditions may apply, but we're here to help you find the right candidates to fill all the vacancies at your business.
Progressive presents Forced Metaphors about bundling your home and auto.
In sports, 3 goals is a hat trick. And when you bundle your home and auto with Progressive, you get a hat trick of great savings and round-the-clock protection. So you might be thinking, wait, that's 2 things. A hat trick is 3. But in this metaphor, great savings counts as 2 goals, and so does round-the-clock protection. So it's like 4 goals, and that's more than 3. It's basic math.
Forced Metaphors. Presented by Progressive. Bundle and protect today. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Discount not available in all states or situations.
This is a good combination, and we're not going to be able to get our weight in because of the quality of that album. So we're going to use Dreams to kind of get Ed's signature keyboard in as well as his amazing guitar. So Dreams off 5150, your number 6 song. Now the rest of the way, it's David Lee Roth. Okay? Stay with me, because I think we're going to have a little controversy when we get to the top. Number 5 for me is the album Fair Warning. Fair Warning, an outstanding album, probably overshadowed by some of the albums that came later, but this was a building block towards greater success for Van Halen. Mean Street, an absolute gem. That's the lead track on side 1. And you know I'm old if I call it side 1. But the best one to me is Unchained. I love Michael Anthony's part on this. I love the vocals on this. Unchained is just one of those songs. When you're in your car, you have to hit it. You do. But I love the album. I really do. I don't love it as much, though, as the number 4 album, which is Women and Children First. It actually predated Fair Warning. Now, some of you, and maybe I'm alone in this, maybe some of you, the very first time that you heard a song off this album was in a movie. Are you familiar with the great movie Better Off Dead? You know, when John Cusack was working there at the hamburger place, the hamburger came to life, and the hamburger played Everybody Wants Some. I could have gone that direction. I didn't, but I wanted to give that song, that beautiful song, and that beautiful moment in American motion picture history its due. I went with And the Cradle Will Rock. I think Dave's vocal on this is probably the best on the album. Could This Be Magic is great too. In a Simple Rhyme is another one that it probably underappreciated. But I think And the Cradle Will Rock is just one of those rock songs that everybody knows. It's very, very well put together. It was a great opening track for this album. But a lot of people notice when Everybody Wants Some, and maybe you know that in the part in the movie and you didn't know what album it's from. Go check it out. You'll be glad you did. All right, so that's your number 4 album, Women and Children First. All right, so let's get a little deeper here, and let's get to, I guess let's just go ahead and do it, man. It's the top 3. And I think we would all probably agree these are the top 3 albums. We, again, may disagree on the order. These are the top 3. Now, my number 3 album may be different than yours. My number 3 album is Van Halen 2. You say, Steve, this is a classic. It is. It also has some covers on it. And listen, I love a good Van Halen cover. Like You're No Good is good. Dance the Night Away is really good. And that Dance the Night Away probably is number 1 for you guys that love this album. I'm going a little bit harder here. And I could have gone Dead on Arrival, which is labeled as DOA on the second side of the album. Beautiful Girls is great too. And of course, Spanish Fly, another great instrumental from Eddie. But I went with Somebody Give Me a Doctor. It's a short song, but it is a rocking song. And I think I went with a lot of love stuff in the beginning. I'm not going with love stuff here at the end. Again, I could have gone DOA. I'm going with Somebody Give Me a Doctor. And I think my buddy Rob will agree. Dance the Night Away is a great tune. It's kind of a radio rock song. So we're going to go with Somebody Give Me a Doctor. Somebody Give Me a Shot. All right, number 2. Now this is where I think I'm going to make some enemies. And I'm okay. You can start your own show and put your own list together. The number 2 album for me is Van Halen 1. That's right. Yeah, I did it. I said it. Van Halen 1 is my number 2 album. And I love everything on here. I could have gone with Ice Cream Man, even though it's not really a Van Halen song. I love their version of it, though. Jamie's Crying. Many of you know that song because of Tone Log's Wild Thing. They sampled Jamie's Crying. Atomic Punk is another great one that nobody talks about. Feel Your Love Tonight is amazing. The harmonies in that are great. Michael Anthony at his best. Of course, you've got Eruption. You Really Got Me, of course, is a Kinks song. Ain't Talking About Love is an absolute classic and really one of the better songs in the Van Halen catalog. I don't know that gets enough discussion. But number 1 for me on this album, and your number 2 track on the top 10 list today, is Running with the Devil. Now, in South Mississippi, in the early 80s, we couldn't admit we liked this song. It didn't mean that we were Satanists. We just liked Van Halen. But that's what happens. Like if somebody caught you playing this song in your car, it's like, hey, what's happening here? We need to go burn your tapes. We got to get you down front, man. We got to lay our hands on you at the altar. Couldn't listen to this. Of course, it came out, in the late 70s. But, by the time we were all able to buy stuff ourselves, it's like, wait, what are you listening to? What's happened here? Steve's a troubled youth. Why would he be running with the devil? I wasn't running with the devil. I just liked the song. I just liked Van Halen. I got into him a little bit later. Then I went back and listened to the backlog. I'm like, wait a minute here. What have I been missing? So Running with the Devil. In Your Face. Number 2. The number 1 Van Halen album for me, because it's not the number 1 song. This is the number 1 album. And maybe it's because it was my first Van Halen album. Maybe. Because I was still a young guy when these guys got rolling. But it's 1984. Now, I think most people from my generation would probably agree that album is the best of the Van Halen albums. Now, let me just remind you, for those of you that haven't listened in a while, and I do listen in a while, I listen regularly. So you start with that great keyboard instrumental that takes you in a jump, and there's Panama that caused a lot of controversy, which was kind of silly. Then there was Top Jimmy, which is a great track. One of my favorite tracks on this album, and I honestly, if there weren't so many hits, I could say this is my favorite one. I love the guitar on this. I love Alex's percussion, his Drop Dead Legs. Then, of course, there's the legendary Hot for Teacher. And then there's I'll Wait, which is an amazing song. We talk about great Van Halen songs. That is one of those songs, too, that I think everybody knows and the casual fans kind of forget. I'll Wait is amazing. Girl Gone Bad is great. House of Pain is great. This is every song on here could have been a single. That's how good it is. It is a classic American rock album. Absolutely love every bit of this album. I just can't find anything to poke any holes in it. I think that's the thing you kind of look at too, is when you start running this thing back, it's like as great as Van Halen 1 is, there's a couple songs in there you're like, well, I think when you look at this thing and you look at 84, you think, man, this is incredible. And so Van Halen 1 awarded a diamond certification by the Recording Industry of America. 84 as well. So you have 2 diamond albums from Van Halen. And it's 84, and it's Van Halen 1. I mean, let me just run these down for you real quick before we move on. Van Halen 1, diamond. Van Halen 2, 5 times platinum. Women and Children First, 3 times platinum. This is all just domestically. Fair Warning, 2 times platinum, and you owe it to yourself to go listen to that album a little bit more. I know it didn't have the same level of commercial success, but it's still outstanding. Diver Down, 4 times platinum, even though it's mainly a covers album. And then 84 was a return to form in many respects for Van Halen. It's a diamond certification for 84. 5150, the first album with Sammy Hagar, and everybody said, I'm going to boycott him. 6 times platinum. OU 812, 4 times platinum. For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge, 3 times platinum. Balance, 3 times platinum. And then Van Halen 3, they win gold. Let that sink in for a second, right? So you get singer number 3, and even though you had some tunes that were pretty decent, the first album in Van Halen's history that didn't go platinum. And every album went multi-platinum prior to that. And then Gary Sharon comes in. It just didn't work out. And it actually debuted at number 4 on the charts. And I think people got to listen to it and said, don't waste your time. And then Different Kind of Truth came out in 2012, and that also went gold. And, of course, things had changed. But the reality of it is that Van Halen's one of America's greatest rock bands. There's no question about it. There's no question about it. And so enjoy the list. And I've got a few friends that are big Van Halen fans. I know they'll say, Steve, you're wrong on this. And that's okay. I think that's the thing, too. When you think about King Edward and you think about his contributions to rock, I don't think you can go wrong ranking Van Halen stuff. I really don't. It's like when you think about especially the David Lee Roth era, there was just so much consistency. And I do think in many respects Van Halen became a different band with Sammy. They were a lot more radio friendly, and I think that helped with record sales. But I think Sammy Hagar, too, rather than being an unknown, was a guy, obviously, that had some credibility. This is a guy that had been around and so had fashioned himself into an amazing rock vocalist. And so I think, again, Sammy's willingness to play the rhythm kind of allowed Ed a little more creative freedom as well. And so excellent, excellent, excellent band. I hope you enjoyed the list. So 84, in my mind, the number 1 Van Halen album. We didn't do it earlier in the show, so let me take the time to do it now. Our Prime Shrimp Player of the Weekend is Dante Kelly, the new Mississippi State commitment. Dante Kelly at LaFleur High School in Itta, Mississippi. I shared with you guys earlier. He took that high school program to its first ever state championship appearance. He'll be back this year. That's going to be a very solid team. Again, I think they're still in 2A. But Dante, of course, kind of making our day-to-day, kind of getting the top dog recruiting results off on a positive note. And again, I think it's just a matter of time before we add to that number. But Dante Kelly making the Mississippi State fans' day today by announcing his verbal commitment to Mississippi State. Now, primeshrimp.com, we had some over the weekend, and again, people that are like newcomers to this program, I don't know what you're waiting on. It's not like the Book of the Month Club. You just kind of order it as you need it. They're not just going to send you shrimp all the time. But Prime Shrimp is a New Orleans-based shrimping company that's been doing this since the 1940s. They know what it takes to get quality food to your dinner table. And you're thinking, Steve, it's so hard to get quality seafood in this parts. You're exactly right, it is. So why not have it fresh shipped up from New Orleans from our friends at primeshrimp.com? And here's the deal. It can survive this suppressive heat that we have in Mississippi. It's very well packaged. And then you unbox it, and it comes in these neat and handy little pouches that fit right in your freezer. It's not going to take up a bunch of room. Inside those gray pouches are high-quality shrimp that have been deveined, detailed, and peeled. You just put on a pot of water to boil. 10 minutes later, you drop them in. Next thing you know, it's time to eat. And I love that French Quarter Alfredo. And a lot of people said, Steve, you're right about this. And I am. You can put some fettuccine noodles on the bowl too, and then by the time that your sauce and your shrimp are ready to go, it's like you're sitting down there on the French Quarter on Decatur Street eating with your friends, enjoying a night out in New Orleans. So check them out today. That's primeshrimp.com. Use promo code Boneyard and save $20 off your first order. And always a money-back guarantee with primeshrimp.com. All right, let's take a look at the world of college baseball right now. This segment of the show brought to you by campusbookmart.net. You know Campus Bookmart. You've been by there before, and you've seen the lovely, talented Susie, Miss Kathy Brown, the wonderfully gifted Pam Minyard. It's a great group of people down there. They'll treat you like family because in their mind you are a family. It's as simple as that. A lot of people want your business. These guys have earned it. They've been in Starkville a long time, doing a great job. Shop local whenever you can. These guys are going to have the latest and greatest in Mississippi State merchandise. If you can't make it to town, visit them on the World Wide Web at campusbookmart.net. I had somebody hit me up today and said, Steve, I'm ordering something. I can't remember the promo code. It's very easy. It's BSR, which stands for Beautiful Steve Robertson. Very easy. Just think of me. You know how beautiful I am. And say, you know what? Steve's beautiful. Oh, yeah, BSR, Beautiful Steve Robertson. That's how we did it. It was a throwaway line that's kind of become a cultural phenomenon. But that gets you free shipping on all orders over $50. Any order less than $50, absolutely incomplete. Again, that's campusbookmart.net, promo code BSR. All right. As much as it hurts, let's take a look at the NCAA baseball bracket. You know, it's I'm okay. You know, I'm okay. I hate that we're not there, but I'm okay. And let me say this. I know this is going to get me in trouble. I'll probably get some messages from people back home, but Starkville's my home now. But let me just share this with you. Guys, I don't want to hear anything else about Southern Miss baseball. I mean, honestly, stop. And I mean it. Stop. After that anemic showing, and listen, let's give Ole Miss some credit. But you have a chance in your own ballpark. You got to win 2 games against Ole Miss, who was the last team to get in a tournament, and you can't get it done. And listen, I get it. Ole Miss was a value pick. Where they were. That's a lineup. It's kind of playing to its potential now. But I have been inundated this year about all the Southern Miss and state championship shirts and all this kind of stuff. Guys, one season is not a program make. And especially when you have a chance to do something. I mean, it's only happened, 2 times in our history, or 3 times now, super regionals. You know, it's crazy. And then you can't get it done. You know, it's like we talk all the time. It's like, oh yeah, well, anytime, anywhere. Yeah, okay, cool. Guys, you got to finish, man. And so they have been to a super regional twice. 2009, they won and went to Omaha, and then 2022 this year they don't. And so they're headed off to the Sun Belt next year, and it's like, I don't know, that doesn't. How does that make you any better? I mean, I don't know. You know, maybe they'll play a more difficult schedule next year. I don't know, but. The reality of it is Southern Miss is a good little program. They're not on this level. They're not. We've had a bad year. Ole Miss, even though Ole Miss's season is going to end in Omaha, I think they would tell you that they had a very disappointing regular season. They've got it going in postseason. They've swept the postseason, right? But I think Southern Miss kind of benefited from the fact that State and Ole Miss just weren't great this year. And so that's the reality of it. And again, I've got respect for those guys, but please stop trying to suggest that Southern Miss baseball is on the same level of Mississippi State and Ole Miss. It's not. It's not. And even some of our own fans do it. You know that second of our fans like, well, we're not happy if we're making ourselves and everybody else miserable. Well, Southern Miss, Well, they're right there with us now. And again, they won a regional. Congratulations to those guys, but they couldn't get it done. Absolutely couldn't get it done. All right, so let's take a look at this thing here. I wish they could make these brackets a little easier to deal with. I mean, honest to goodness. I wish it was easier. Like if there's just an interactive bracket you just kind of click on. And maybe I'm just going to the wrong place. But it always seems to be, it's one of these things where we just can't find it. All right, so let's start with the top left-hand corner of the bracket. That's the number 1 seed, and the curse of number 1 continues. We went to super regional format in 1999. We expanded the field from 46 to 64 teams. And since that happened in 1999, only one team that was number 1 seeded won the national championship, and that is Miami back in 99. So nobody this century has entered the tournament as the overall number 1 seed and then won the national championship. Notre Dame beats Tennessee 2 out of 3, and Tennessee pitching was dominating Notre Dame. It was a 3-0 ball game, and you're thinking this thing is over. The next thing you know, a couple of jacks, and you get a catcher up there that has got 1 home run on the year, and he takes one the other way that just kind of slips over the low fence there at Tennessee in Knoxville. Maybe we got to rethink that. Maybe it's not good to have the launching pad. You know what I'm saying? It's like, again, I told you guys I didn't think these guys are built for the postseason. And Notre Dame wins. Going to Omaha, what, the 3rd time in school history? Is that right? Is that correct? I believe it is. Let me just double check my notes here. I believe Notre Dame baseball is the 3rd time in school history of going to Omaha. But let's be sure about that because, I'm getting older. And so my memory, it may not be what I would like for it to be. But yes, I am correct. Even in my advanced age, that is their 3rd College World Series appearance. So congratulations to the Irish. And I think them coming to Mississippi State last year and playing in front of 15,000 people on 3 consecutive days prepared them to go handle that 4,800 at Tennessee. Like everybody's like, man, what a great atmosphere at Tennessee. Are you kidding me? Who do you think you're talking to? We get 3 times as many fans on a weekend against a mid-major. Are you kidding me? We get 4,200 fans on a Tuesday night. Give me a break, man. Have some context. But Notre Dame wins. Surprise to many. I thought Tennessee would do it. I didn't think they'd win it, but I thought they would get to Omaha. I told you guys last week, is Notre Dame capable of beating them? They absolutely are. They did. Texas takes care of ECU, and while we're talking about teams I'm tired of hearing about, ECU is one of them. You can get on the train with Southern Miss. And even though ECU is a better program than Southern Miss, every single year, it's like we got to have the college baseball hipsters kind of hype them. Oh, this is the year. And listen, they get a top 8 national seed this year. And then Texas goes in there and just spanks them yesterday. Texas, a team that I said early on was probably had the best chance to win it. They're back in Omaha. It's been a wild ride. And you've got Ivan Melendez now with 30 bombs. That's going to be interesting in that bracket with A&M. Interesting bracket 1 is A&M, Texas, Notre Dame, Oklahoma. So you've got like the old Big 8 and the independent Notre Dame. That is going to be a very interesting bracket. Texas was here last year. Oklahoma hadn't been there in a while. Notre Dame felt like they should have been there. A&M is kind of like the upstart this year. The moment might prove to be a little bit too big for A&M. I think Notre Dame is a team that's capable of winning, but I think Texas, Texas was a game away from playing for the national championship last year. I think now that they're there, they're probably thinking, okay, we're back. Let's go. I can see Texas winning this thing. I mean, I can't wait to watch it, honestly. All right, A&M, of course, beat Louisville. I thought Louisville would win that one. I really did. I thought Louisville would take A&M down. They didn't. Congratulations. A&M was the first team in. And I originally picked Florida to win this regional. I didn't think Virginia Tech would. I thought whoever won the Gainesville regional, either Florida or Oklahoma, would win it. Oklahoma does. Oklahoma wins the Big 12 tournament. Now they're headed to Omaha. Congratulations, Sooners. Now the other side of this thing is interesting. We'll get a game tonight, Stanford and Uconn. Stanford, of course, was my pick to win it all. They lose game 1, just like they did in the regional. They get in the loser's bracket in the regional. They fight their way back. They were amazing yesterday. And so hopefully they can close this thing out today. I think Stanford, again, I think this bracket sets up well for them. On the other side of things, Arkansas takes care of North Carolina. I'm not surprised to see Arkansas win. It's kind of like in 89. We were expected to go win it, and we got upset. In 90, we'll make it to Omaha. Last year, Arkansas was expected to win it. They break through and get there this year. I think there's going to be some relief on that team. I think they're going to feel like, you know what, maybe we're a year removed from where we should be. I think Arkansas is a dangerous team. I think Arkansas is a very, very dangerous team. All right, Ole Miss, of course, takes care of Southern Miss. And, again, you got to tip the cap to Mike Bianco and his crew. I mean, a lot of people were at the end of the regular season and we're just like, let's just go ahead and fire him. We don't want to be in a regional. They cursed John Cohen for them making a regional, and now here they are in Omaha. Third time in 50 years. But they're there. And this is a team beginning of the year. A lot of people had 8 for Omaha. So it's like it took them a while, but maybe they've kind of lived up to expectations here in the postseason. So a good team. I think they had a pretty easy path to get here, but it doesn't matter. They're there now. But I do think they're in a difficult bracket. I really do. Auburn, Oregon State, the winner of that, of course, will play Ole Miss in Omaha. And that's not something that we've said very often, is anybody playing Ole Miss in Omaha. But that's the bracket as it looks today. We can kind of update some things tomorrow when we talk again. But I think it's one of those deals you look at and you begin to kind of realize, too, that this is a very wide open field. If we're going to go with experience, you kind of got to favor Texas or Arkansas in this thing. Because a lot of these teams don't have anybody on their roster that's played in Omaha before. And it's a different deal. It is a much different deal. And it's going to be hard to hit home runs in that ballpark. Now, last year, of course, I still think they changed the balls a little bit. But I think Aaron Fitz sent out yesterday that 3 teams last year hit 100 home runs or more, and this year 19 did. Something's changing. Something. But, that's kind of where we are right now. There's, again, 2 teams left to go, and we'll fill out the bracket. And as it stands right now, it's Stanford 8, UConn 3 at the end of 4. So Stanford, a good start there. But Stanford, again, my pick to win the whole thing. And they have not made it easy on me by any stretch. But I think this is a team that's capable of winning the national championship. And if they swing it like they have the last couple of days, it's going to be difficult. It'll be awfully difficult. And if memory serves me correct, that it'll be Stanford and Arkansas, the first game in bracket 2. Interesting. Interesting to say the least. So we'll see how things go. Now, we're out on the recruiting trail right now. Your coaches are out on the road, having a chance to visit prospects and, of course, have a chance to watch some prospects in person. And adding some transfers. We've, I guess we've added 3 at this point. I think that's correct. I think here in my head here. Yeah, I guess that's correct. 3. Let me just get to my notes here, just to kind of make sure that we're on the same page here. Because sometimes I think about all these junior college players too, and you can get confused. And I get confused easily anyway. Yeah, 3. So Landon Gartman from Memphis was an all-conference pitcher from that right-hander, and outfielder Colton Ledbetter, and also con guy from Sanford, and then right-handed pitcher Nate Dome from Ball State. Dome's numbers are not going to jump off the page at you, but the MLB scouts love him. He's a guy that's going to throw in the high 90s, got a biting slider, and so we'll see how things kind of progress there. But we got to go out and get some right-handed power, and we've got to go out and get some left-handed arms. And we got some young guys coming in too that we're excited about. We kind of touched on that on the show, last week about it's not just about the portal, but no matter what we do, no matter how many portal, like some people are thinking, we're going to have 10 guys in the portal. Where do you think we're going to put them? I mean, you've got a roster, you got a squad size, you got to meet, and so those are the things that I begin to think about too. Is in August when this new legislation comes into pass about scholarships. What's a squad size going to look like? How are we going to handle that if we decide to fully fund baseball? So there's still a lot that's got to unfold this summer. We got to wait for the College World Series to end. Like as teams are eliminated, we're seeing more and more guys go in the portal. You've got till July 1st. That's a deadline to go in the portal and be eligible to play next season, unless you're a grad transfer. Well, then you got the draft. And then you're going to have all this pending legislation. And so there's going to be guys, too, after the draft that like to go in the portal. You know, we saw that with Scotty DeBrew. He didn't get drafted. So he said, I'm going to go in the portal. R.J. Yeager didn't get drafted, goes in the portal. And so where would we be without those two guys? So this is going to be a summer-long process. It's not going to be something that's over next week. Like on the genespage.com message boards, people are like, oh, we need an update. When there's something to update, we'll update you. But baseball recruiting is much different. A lot of these guys move in silence, especially when it comes to transfers. A lot of these guys don't want to talk yet. Simple as that. They don't want to talk until they've made a decision, which is interesting. But these are guys, too. A lot of them have already been through the recruiting process. It's now kind of a business decision. And so I read all the commentary. A lot of people have good things to say and some bad things to say. But the reality of it is, until we see what the roster looks like, we have no idea what to expect next year. Now, do I expect us to be better next year? Well, how could we be worse? So, yeah, I do expect that. But the reality of it is we're Mississippi State. And so you've got a coaching staff that won a national championship. I have spoken to everybody on the staff since the end of the season, and I can tell you that nobody is wearing it well. Nobody is enjoying the fact that there is a postseason tournament going on without us being a part of that. Nobody's like, oh, well, this is fun. No. And I read and see things sometimes, and I think to myself, it's like, you know, sometimes we have this non-silent minority that kind of sets the edge on the narrative, and they say, hey, you know, Lamonis and them are doing this, and we're not pushing this issue, and you don't know what you're talking about. Oh, we're falling behind with this guy. You don't know. You know, you say that, but you don't know. It's like you read, oh, well, so-and-so's in there, and Kendall Rogers tweeted this name, so we ought to be able to go get this guy. Well, what if we've already done our due diligence and the guy's not a fit for us? Just because D1 baseball thinks is great, and maybe he is great, doesn't mean he's a great fit for us. We don't always have to go out there and chase the headlines. We got to go find the right players that fill our needs. I'd rather make headlines in July in Omaha than make headlines in the portal in June. And maybe I'm wrong, but that's how I see it. And so just kind of pump the brakes and prepare. This is going to be a long summer when it comes to the college baseball recruiting cycle. And we've got all this, you know, football recruiting stuff. We've got 2 more camps this weekend. We've got Top Dawg Camp July 29th. So we're going to have a lot of football recruiting news too. And Paul Jones, of course, is kind of staying up to date on the basketball recruiting. There's still a couple spots to fill there. I can't remember a time that we've had so much interest in recruiting in the Big Three in the summertime. And I think a lot of it, too, in baseball, people have just been kind of casual fans of recruiting. I think the transfer portal and our desire to have an immediate turnaround is driving a lot of interest. It's like, you know what, hey, in the past, I've just said, hey, State's always going to have a top 10 recruiting class. We're always going to be great. We'll figure it out. I think this year, because we've had such an unprecedented year, you know, we thought we had kind of graduated from this. Now here we are, a year after a national championship, not even playing in the postseason. I think there's a lot of people like, you know what, hey, I want to pay a little bit closer attention to this. I want to feel better about the trajectory of the program. And so I need to kind of keep plugged in, and there's no better place to do that than genespage.com. If you subscribe the day before midnight, you get 60% off an annual sub. That's pretty cool, right? That's a pretty good deal there. If you hadn't done that, let me encourage you to do so. Give you some, 60% off an annual subscription that ends today. And I'm late getting the show up, so you don't have a lot of time to waste. All right, let's thank our friend Brooks Bryan. That's a guy that keeps his finger to the pulse when it comes to Mississippi State baseball. Former Diamond Dog in his own right. A guy that knows all about going to Omaha. A guy that knows, man. No doubt about it. Brooks Bryan knows what it takes to wear the uniform, knows what it takes to win at a high level, and he can help you win and live at a high level here in Starkville. Portico. I've told you guys before, if I was moving to Starkville now, it's where I would move. And you said, well, Steve, why don't you move now? Well, I've got the circus tent set up now out here. It's a little difficult to get this show on the road. Plus, I'm lazy, settled in. But the reality of it is maybe you're not. Maybe you're thinking, you know what, I've always wanted a place in Starkville. I've always wanted to have a second home in Starkville, a place where we can all congregate after ball games, before ball games. And maybe I don't want to tailgate. Maybe I just want to have everybody over at the house. Then we'll go to the game and we'll come back to the house. And my kids and my friends can come and stay with us, and everybody's got somewhere to be. How wonderful would that be? maybe you owe it to yourself to give yourself an opportunity to at least gather some information. Give Brooks a call or text today at 601-416-8075. Again, that's 601-416-8075. If Phase 1's completely sold out, your new neighbors are already back into high life again. Phase 2, under construction now, got a couple houses already sold. Some other ones will be completed sooner rather than later. And then there's also room for you to pick out your lot and your house plans if you want to do a custom build somewhere. So you got a lot of options right now. But the reality of it is it's not going to last forever. Portico is 1.1 miles away from the Mississippi State campus. You can't do any better than that. How cool is that, right? Be sure and go check it out. You can find out on your own time, right? You can go by there and turn off of 82 on a 12 like going to campus. The very first right is Pat Station Road. That'll take you to Portico. And again, you'll find it's just over a mile away. All right, let's take a little history lesson again today. I've had some people that have reached out in the past and said, Steve, I loved it when you talked about McCool Hall and about these great, people that are represented on our campus like Billy Chadwick and Chadwick Lake outside of the Bryan building. Is named for Billy Chadwick, a former AD who was also the baseball, basketball, track, football coach, everything. He did it all and was unceremoniously fired through no fault of his own through part of the Bilbo Purge. But so I wanted to talk about Davis Wade Stadium today, kind of the history behind Davis Wade. And so the first, quote, football field we had was actually called Hardy Field. And so the new stadium was built in 1914, and we had an incredible creative genius here. We called it the new athletic field, right? I don't know who Hardy Field represented, and maybe we can find out here. Maybe we can. Maybe we can work together as a group and say, okay, well, Hardy Field was named after this person, and maybe that's a job for me. But the reality of it is Davis Wade Stadium is one of these places that we spend a lot of time. We don't always know a lot about it, right? So I thought, well, let me just talk a little bit today about this. And when I was a kid, it wasn't Davis Wade Stadium. So when I was a kid, it was Scott Field, because in 1920 the students passed a resolution to rename the field after one of our football stars and Olympic middle distance runner, Don Scott. There's a trophy somewhere. There's a trophy, or there's something, or a statue, or something somewhere that maybe is missing since we've made the change. Scott Field at Davis Wade Stadium. There's a lot to that. But it was Scott Field when I was a kid. And in many respects, I think it always will be. We call it Davis Wade. But it wasn't until 2001 that we dubbed it Davis Wade Stadium. And do you know who Davis Wade was? Well, it's big Mississippi State fan, Floyd Davis Wade Sr., the co-founder of Aflac. Aflac, that's right. It's a Mississippi State guy, right? We talked about Dutch McCool being one of the founders of Holiday Inn, and here you got Davis Wade, a co-founder of Aflac. He made a very large contribution, and so we did the expansion. For a long time, all we had, and you can still kind of see the bones of the old stadium, and we just kind of had the lower bowl. And then we began to expand from there, and thanks to Floyd Davis Wade Sr., we were able to put an upper deck up there. Pretty crazy. I think that one person could do that for us. And so, we saw it kind of grow. And, there's a lot of plans. We got to renovate some things on the west side. They're going to gut out, the press row and that sort of stuff. We're going to move. And I like our open-air press box, but I understand, too, us being right there on the 50 probably costs the university some money. Like if they had some more luxury seating or perhaps club-level seating there, probably better financially for the university. I'm not one of these kind of people either that's like, oh, they're going to move my seat. Yeah. I wish we'd move our seat in the press box in baseball because our sight lines are so challenged up there. But the reality of it is that Davis Wade Stadium is probably needing some updating, and you're beginning to see that happen. We were at the field this weekend, of course, And on the west side there, there's been a lot of discussion about what's going to happen on the west side. There have been some bleachers that have been pulled up there, but nothing's been put in place yet. Now, supposedly, in the next week or so, we are going to see some renderings about what's going to happen with some of the new enhancements to Davis Wade Stadium. A lot of people have said, oh, it's going to be like the left field lounge. Well, not really. Okay, not really. You may have like some clustered seats where like you and your family can kind of sit together or whatever, and maybe it's a little more of a picnic type area. But you're not going to be dragging your coolers up there, and you're not going to be dragging up your charcoal grills. Okay, that's not, from what I understand, that's not what we're planning. So we're not going to have the left field lounge in that respect. But you know how we kind of have. You have your boxes out there. I think that's kind of more in line with what I'm expecting, is it will have like a box for you to kind of sit, with your family, or your friends or whatever. And so I think that's what we'll see. And again, a lot of those seats aren't getting utilized anyway. So what if we could make it more of a social area to get people to come and sit, because I don't know that expanding capacity is what we need to do. I think maybe you add some amenities to improve the fan experience, and that's probably the direction that we need to go. Kentucky renovated their stadium and kind of took things down, and you look at Kentucky now, it's great. Wasn't always. Commonwealth Stadium used to be really rough. It looks a lot nicer now, especially on TV. Now, the outside of it, not so much. Mitch Barnhart and those guys got to get that together, but at least on TV, as far as visual, like shooting pictures at Kentucky is outstanding. Also, too, the ribbon boards have all been removed. The Godzillatron, or the Dogzillatron, whatever we used to call it, that is being changed. All those panels are up there being serviced. I don't know if they're just being upgraded or whatever, but that's being changed. So there's a lot of things that are kind of happening there at Davis Wade. And so I wanted to take some time to kind of talk about, the history of this stadium and, of course, too, kind of where we are. Did you know that the record attendance at Davis Wade Stadium, you want to take a guess what that is? I'll give you 3 seconds. What's your guess? 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 2014 against Auburn, we went to number 1. 3 versus 2, and then we leapfrogged Florida State. For those of you that didn't know, Mississippi State's Davis Wade Stadium, the second oldest stadium in Division I, only behind Georgia Tech. We opened it in 1914, renovated it in 28, 82, 2002, 2014. And, of course, in 2014, that's when we had the south end zone and kind of bowled that end in. I'm in favor of us bowling the whole thing in. I've often thought before, and maybe I'm completely wrong about this. Maybe I'm too much of a weirdo, but I would like to see us do something, to kind of close in, that area around the scoreboard there. You got basically 3 buildings there right now. You got the M Club thing. Okay, we need to fix that, obviously. But why don't we have a dog pound or something? If we're going to be the dog pound, we hadn't talked about that in a long time. Why don't we do something kind of like what they've done at Tampa? That looks really cool on television, and that's a really cool thing. So why not, if we're not going to increase capacity, let's do something to kind of make the stadium look a little more finished. And maybe if you want to have that social area up there where people can kind of come and go as they please, and you could kind of play off the dog pound thing, that's just me. But I think that we could do something there kind of aesthetically, because we have to be different at Mississippi State. We do. We have to be. We don't have the same resources that many of the people do within our conference. And so I think one of the things you can do to kind of make that a cool thing is to just kind of adopt that. And again, you're not having to add, seats. So you're not having more tickets to sell. It's not making Mike Ritchie and his group's job be more difficult. But I think it could be something really, really cool. We talked about putting like a hotel there, which would be great. That was something that we checked on, but we never really followed through with. But they're still working through some renderings there. I know there's some things they said they've got to make sure that the engineers can kind of sign off on what we're trying to do to make sure that the infrastructure can support some of the things you want to do. And we don't know yet. We don't know. But I think we could be a little more creative, with that end. I don't like to see the stadium opened at that end. Maybe that's just me. And I don't want to be one of these whiners either. I mean, I'm always happy that we get a chance to go and compete and put a good quality product on the field. But when I think about fan amenities and I think about adding intrigue, I mean, you think about how many people wanted to come when we opened Duty Noble Field. Well, then people couldn't wait to see it, right? And so I think you can do some of those same things at Davis Wade, do some things that are maybe a little bit unique that you can't see anywhere else. And I don't think just bowling it in and putting some more seats is what we need. We're not selling the seats we have. So let's maybe do something a little more creative. And that's just me. Maybe you disagree, and that's okay. That's okay. So I'll remind you guys, too, if you hadn't done so, go to dogpilethebook.com. And, we won the College World Series last year. Perhaps you've forgotten. We did. We were awfully proud of that moment. I documented it. I went to all but 4 baseball games last year, and those were due to the weather. 3 of them were due to the weather. And another one was due to the fact that I couldn't be gone for 5 straight nights because I didn't get to go to Charleston. But the reality of it is it was a great year, and it is a keepsake. Everybody wants that book, and you should have it already. If you don't, you go to dogpilethebook.com, and you can order one. And while you're there, and again, I got inventory last week, if you're looking to buy Stark Villains, you need to do it now. There's precious few of those left. Alpha Dog's kind of right behind there. And again, we're not going to print those books again this year, maybe next year, and that's just a maybe, right? There's still a few in bookstores, but a lot of times I'll go to a book signing and the bookseller will say, hey, we need to get some more copies of Stark Villains. And I'm just like, well, you need to make a move sooner rather than later because the warehouse tells me they're almost out. So you can get them direct. Again, you get Flim Flam, Stark Villains, Alpha Dogs, and Dogpile from Dogpile the Book. Bloomsville Leander, of course, available through Amazon, BooksAMillion.com, and Barnes & Noble, also as an ebook on Kindle. And if you're looking for Stark Villains merch, you can find it at StarkVillains.com. I get that a lot, too. People are like, hey, Steve, I see your Stark Villains shirt. Where did you get it? Well, we had them made. And you can go to StarkVillains.com, pick those up. Officially trademarked Stark Villain. All right, that's going to do it for today. And again, I'll be back tomorrow, and we'll have to figure out what we're going to talk about. I'll probably do kind of a recruiting breakdown and look at some of the offers that we've extended and kind of what our chances are of getting those young men into our football recruiting class. And then we'll kind of look around what's left in college baseball. But until next time, let's all live our lives in a way we make more friends than enemies, and people can see a difference in the way we live.
Sure, we have 30 seconds to tell you that drivers who switch to Progressive could save big. But then what? Well, we could try to fill the remaining time with awkward pauses. It's often done for comedic effect. Is it working? I can't tell if this is funny. Maybe this is so bad it's funny. Wow, we really peaked at the save big when you switched to Progressive part. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.